Hello YouTube, welcome to another Season 6 Patch 6.4 guide by eGaming Television. In this guide we are covering Rek'Sai, the Void Burrower. What an attractive little select sound that was. Anyways, for more of our guides you can go to www.egamingtv.com and you can follow us on Twitter at egaming_TV. We're going to start doing our skin giveaways and most of our communicating on Twitter, so please make sure you guys do go to Twitter and follow us to look out for those giveaways. So let's hop right into our Rek'Sai guide by starting with her pros and cons, starting with her first pro, which is she has nice jungle clear. This is pretty much just due to the fact that she has AoE built in her kit, which is actually our third pro that I listed, but that makes her clear the jungle rather fast. Her Q when she is in ground form makes her next 3 basic attacks within 5 seconds deal bonus physical damage to its target and the surrounding ones, and it only has a 4-second cooldown, so this makes you get through the camps really fast. On top of that, when you do get your burrow, you move to camps even faster, so you get through the jungle actually very fast. Another pro Rek'Sai does have is that she has really good jungle sustain as well. This pretty much just comes from part of your passive, which is when you have extra fury, if you're burrowed, it turns into health. I'm trying not to go into these abilities too much because obviously we're going to be covering those later on in the guide in depth, but that's pretty much why she has that sustain. One other pro Rek'Sai does have, which is actually very nice on a jungler, is that she's rather mobile. She gets bonus movement speed when she is burrowed, and she can also use her ultimate to hop around tunnels around the map so she can move to lanes quicker and counter gank. Mobility is probably one of the best things to have on a jungler, and Rek'Sai has a ton of it, which is why she's one of the best picks in the whole game for jungle. Rek'Sai even has true damage in her kit, although it is not that reliable. When she uses her E at full fury, she will actually do true damage with that ability. Now of course she's not always going to be at full fury considering she's roaming around in burrowed form, turning stuff into health. However, when she does get off an E at full fury, it's true damage, which is really nice to do some extra damage to tanky targets. The last pro I've listed for Rek'Sai is that she's great as both a bruiser and a tank. Some people probably think that's kind of the same thing, but they're actually rather different. A bruiser is actually quite a bit squishier than a full tank, however, they do a hell of a lot more damage than a pure tank. She can use her tunnel ability to get right into the backline if she is a bruiser and deal tons of damage. It's also great to go as a full tank as you can get right into the middle of the team, hopefully you pop somebody up, and you can live for a very long duration while your team is doing lots of damage. In this guide, we're going to be showing you more of a bruiser build. I think Rek'Sai is better in the bruiser role. However, if you want to go for a full tank build, that is perfectly fine as well. Now, although Rek'Sai is an insanely strong jungler, she still has a bunch of cons. The first one being she has a lack of a reliable CC. The only little CC that Rek'Sai does have in her kit is called Unburrow, which is just when you come out of the ground. You're not always going to be coming out of the ground right beside a target, however, that is what you should be trying to do. The little pop-up is only a second duration as well, so it's not even that long if you do pop up somebody. Although she does lack CC, she's still a pretty good ganker because of her mobility, but it is best to pick her when there are some sort of CCs in the lanes you're ganking. The next con Rek'Sai has is that her ultimate is really long duration, especially early on. At level 3 it's only 70 seconds, which isn't too bad, however it does start at 150 seconds. This isn't the worst thing considering you're kind of mobile with your burrowed movement speed anyways, but of course having your ultimate to hop to tunnels is a lot nicer. The next two cons, which kind of go hand in hand, is that she's fairly item dependent and she is squishy early on. Because of these two cons here, she is rather susceptible to counter ganks and invades. Although her ganking is great, if she does get counter ganked by something like an Elise or Lee Sin, that could be a very bad situation for your team. She also has the tunnel ability to try and escape invades if they do happen, however, depending on where you are positioned in the jungle, this may not really be an option. I usually find it best to get a bit of farm early on so she is somewhat tanky and then start roaming around a lot more often. The last con I've listed for Rek'Sai is that her tunnels are easily found and can reduce some of the mobility Rek'Sai has. If an enemy opponent does stand on your tunnel for a couple seconds, the tunnel disappears. If all the enemy opponents are removing all of your tunnels, this can be really annoying as you can't really ultimate anywhere. If this is the case, just make sure you are putting up your tunnels over and over again and put them in areas where people don't travel too often. This may not be that big of a con depending on the opponents you are facing, but it can be rather annoying when everybody on the enemy team is getting rid of your tunnels over and over. For Rek'Sai's Masteries, we go 12 Ferocity and 18 Resolve, grabbing the Strength of the Ages Keystone Mastery. Strength of the Ages seems to be the default on either a bruisey or tanky jungler, as you get some nice health and you get restored health when you do kill them at full stacks. These are great masteries for Rek'Sai because we do get rather tanky in the resolve tree with some nice magic resist, armor, health, and some regen, and we get some nice damage in the ferocity side as well. In combination, these masteries listed give us some nice jungle sustain and make us rather tanky in team fights. For our runes, we take the exact same runes as a traditional AD carry, which are 9 greater marks of attack damage, 9 greater glyphs of magic resist, 9 greater seals of armor, and 3 greater quintessences of attack speed. In total, these runes give us 8.5 attack damage, 12 magic resist, 9 armor, and 13.5% attack speed. We end up taking these runes for the exact same reason we took the masteries, which is because they make us rather tanky and give us some nice damage in the jungle as well. These runes are really nice because if you were an AD carry player, if you do want to transition into a jungle player, you will probably already have the runes anyways, which is a great thing. For Rek'Sai's summoners, we of course take Flash and Smite. Flash has a lot of defensive and offensive uses. This can allow you to escape from champions or can be used to chase opponents if needed. It's also great if you are wanting to soak as much damage as possible so your team can fight behind you. You can just flash into all the opponents and they're not really going to have a choice but to fight you. Smite is a must-have on junglers as it increases your jungler clear speeds and can be used to secure kills on Dragon and Baron. Since we take a Stalker's Blade on Rek'Sai, Smite can also be used offensively to steal 20% movement speed from a target. Since Rek'Sai is a jungler which is lacking in the CC department, having just an extra 20% movement speed is a really nice thing to have. Red Smite is also an option, but I do prefer the blue Smite. So now we arrive at the ability portion of our guide, which starts with the passive, which is called Fury of the Rek'Sai, and I hope I pronounced that right. So the first portion of this passive is the Fury part. So Rek'Sai generates 5 Fury every time she lands a basic attack, and 10 Fury every time she lands Queen's Wrath, Unburrow, or Furious Bite, plus 2.5 additional Fury per enemy hit beyond the first. Rek'Sai loses 20 Fury per second if she has not gained any in the last 5 seconds. So pretty much if you want to keep your Fury high, you've got to be hitting people over and over again because 20 Fury lost every 5 seconds is really fast. She will lose her Fury really quickly. This is part of the reason that getting off your true damage can be kind of hard sometimes. The main thing Fury does work with is your Furious Bite, which is your first part of your E. The damage of that ability is increased by 1% for every point of Fury you do have, and if you have 100, that is the ability that does the true damage. Other than this, having Fury actually isn't that big of a deal. The only other thing it does do is when you burrow with it, you will return that Fury into your health. So the second part of this passive, which is what I was just talking about, is called Fury of the Rek'Sai. As long as Rek'Sai remains burrowed, she expends 20% of her accumulated Fury every second to heal herself up to a maximum of 25 to 450 based on level over 5 seconds, if she burrowed at 100 Fury. This stops once Rek'Sai consumes all of her Fury or returns to full health. This is just a great part of the passive as you are returning some of your health as you are roaming around the map, assuming you do have Fury from jungle mobs or whatever you have attacked in the last little while. Alright, so now her Q, W, E do have a form when she is burrowed and when she is actually standing on the ground, so bear with me for these. There is, 6 abilities where there would usually be 3, but let's cover all of those. Alright, so quickly if you're looking here, you will see unburrowed active. That means this is when she is standing on the ground. The other ones will have burrowed active, so that is how you'll be able to tell if this is when she is unburrowed or burrowed. So this is the first part of her Q, which is called Queen's Wrath, and like I just said, this is when she is standing on the ground. So Rek'Sai's next 3 basic attacks within 5 seconds deal bonus damage to her target and all surrounding enemies. The physical damage this deals is between 15 and 55 plus 20% bonus AD, and Queen's Wrath also resets Rek'Sai's auto attack timer. The range is 325 and the cooldown is only 4 seconds. This is a really nice ability, definitely for clearing jungle, considering it just makes your next 3 basic attacks do more damage. In the jungle, this will also be hitting all the other little jungle camps, which is why you get through the jungle so fast. 20% bonus AD is rather small, but this does work on 3 auto attacks, so it is actually a pretty good scaling ability. To maximize your damage output, try doing 1 basic attack first, then activating this right after so you get a really fast 2 attacks in. So the burrowed form of Q is called Prey Seeker. Rek'Sai fires a Void Charge Pulse in the target direction that detonates on the first enemy struck, dealing magic damage to all enemies in the area and revealing them for 2.5 seconds. The magic damage this deals is between 60 and 180 base plus 70% AP. The range is 1650 and the cooldown goes from 11 to 7 seconds. This is not as good as your other Q form, but it is pretty solid still. It has a relatively large range, so it can be used to finish off enemies that are running away, and the base damage is okay. The main problem with this is that it is based off of your AP, which we do not build on Rek'Sai. We do max Q first, however, but mostly because of the first form of Q. So now we're going to look at our W, which is the ability that lets us go underground or come up from the ground. So the first one is called Burrow, which is of course when we are on the ground, we can use Burrow to go underneath. So Rek'Sai burrows into the ground, reducing her sight range and disabling her basic attacks while gaining between 15 and 30 bonus movement speed, immunity to unit collision, access to an alternate set of basic attacks, and Tremor Sense. With Tremor Sense activated, enemy and neutral units that move near Rek'Sai have their positions revealed to her and her allies. This does not grant sight, but can be seen through Fog of War. The reduced range is 250, and the Tremor Sense range is 1300. The cooldown of the ability is 4 seconds after unburrowing. So since I do make my guides with replays I take, you cannot actually see the whole Tremor Sense thing, which I apologize for. However, at least you can see the whole area around Rek'Sai, so that is a benefit of the guide, I guess. Very simply though, when you do have Tremor Sense, you do have just a bit limited range. However, you can see wards and champions in bushes at least, which is really nice to actually have. Your team, however, cannot actually target the champion you can see though, although you can see them, it's weird. If you had something like a Nocturne in your team, he could not ultimate to a target that you can kind of see moving around in the bush because you don't actually have vision of that target. This is a really nice part of the ability though, because you can actually see what is around when you are moving in for a gank. Because of this and the fact that you do gain bonus movement speed, you do maneuver around the map when you are burrowed, of course. So the second part of your W is of course to come up from the ground, which is called Unburrow. Rek'Sai bursts out of the ground, dealing physical damage to surrounding enemies and knocking them up for up to 1 second based on the proximity to her upon emerging. Enemies cannot be affected again by Unburrow for a few seconds. Physical damage of the ability is between 40 and 200 plus 40% bonus AD. Rek'Sai can attempt to land a basic attack against an enemy while burrowed to trigger Unburrow. The cooldown is 1 second after burrowing, and the on-target cooldown is between 10 and 8 seconds. That of course means to affect something with Unburrow again. So to use this ability, I usually just auto-attack somebody when I am near them to Unburrow and pop them up. Other than that, it just does a decent amount of physical damage with not that great of bonus AD ratio, so we actually max this last. Alright, so time for our E abilities, and the first one, when above ground, is called Furious Bite. Rek'Sai bites the target enemy, dealing physical damage that is increased by 1% for each point of current fury. If Rek'Sai has full fury, Furious Bite deals true damage instead. So the minimum physical damage is between 80 and 120% AD, and the true damage is between 160 and 240% AD. The range of the ability is 250, and this is pretty much just because it's a melee attack basically, and the cooldown is 12 seconds. So this is pretty much just a really good damage ability, especially when you have lots of fury. Since this ability does have a 12-second cooldown, make sure you wait until you have a lot of fury. Of course, if you are going to land the kill with it, then of course just use it. If it is possible, however, wait until you reach full fury, so you do that true damage. The longer you wait in a fight to use this ability, the more damage it's going to do. The second form of your E, which is of course when you are burrowed, is called Tunnel, and this is what you make your tunnels with, of course. Rek'Sai dashes in the direction of the cursor, leaving behind 2 connected tunnel entrances. She can interact with either entrance to traverse the tunnel again, but each tunnel shuts down for a few seconds after being used, momentarily preventing further traversal. Rek'Sai's tunnels last up to 10 minutes and can have up to 8 pairs of tunnel entrances active on the map at the same time. Enemy champions, however, can destroy a tunnel by standing on either entrance for 1.5 seconds. The cooldown of the ability is between 20 and 18 seconds, and the on-target cooldown is between 10 and 6 seconds. The on-target cooldown in this case means how long before you can use the tunnel entrances a second time. This can be also used to go in for a gank or to escape. When you're going into a lane, you can quickly use your tunnel to jump over a little part of terrain or to just jump a bit forward. When you are near the target, you can then pop them up with your Unburrow. If you are getting invaded in your jungle, you can use this to hop over walls to get to safety. It's really annoying when the enemy champions are destroying all of your tunnels. Just try to make sure that you keep these up so you are able to ultimate around the map. Alright, now we finally arrive at the ultimate, which is called Void Rush. This ultimate actually has a nice little passive in it as well, which gives Rek'Sai some bonus attack speed, and it's between 20 and 60%. When activated, Rek'Sai targets one of her tunnel entrances and channels for 1.5 seconds. Upon completing the channel, she burrows into the ground and dashes to the target tunnel, becoming untargetable for the duration. This does not shut down the selected tunnel. In addition to disabling effects, damage from champions and turrets interrupt Void Rush, putting it on an 8-second reduced cooldown. The range of the ability is global, and the cooldown goes from 150 to 110, and finally to 70 seconds. It's really nice that it does have the passive part of this, because the cooldown is really long at the start, but at least you get some bonus attack speed, which is a nice thing to have. This ability can be used as an escape as well, however you have to keep in mind that it is a 1.5 second channel, and if you do get hit, it does go on cooldown and you will probably die in that case. A Rek'Sai that has great map awareness and keeps up her tunnels can be a very, very annoying Rek'Sai with this ability. With this ability, Rek'Sai can even be kind of a split pusher if he does have tunnels where his team is, so he can join the team fight. This of course can be countered though if the enemies do find your tunnels and shut those down first and then engage your team. So you have to be very, very careful if you are split pushing. The main reason I do like this ability is for counter ganking. If your team is in a shitty situation, you can use this to quickly join them and turn the tides. Alright, so with all the abilities covered, let's look at the ability order. So first is Void Rush, which is your ultimate. You take it at 6, 11, and 16, like every other ultimate in the game. You follow this up with your Q, which is known as Queen's Wrath and Prey Seeker. You take it at 1, 4, 5, 7, and 9. You then follow that up with your E, which is called Furious Bite and Tunnel, and you take it at 3, 8, 10, 12, and 13. Since you only really need the single point in your W, you then take Burrow and Unburrow last, which is at 2, 14, 15, 17, and 18. For Rek'Sai's item build, we start with a Hunter's Machete, 3 health potions, and Warding Totem. On our first recall, we want to make sure we get a Stalker's Blade, Vision Ward, and Sweeping Lens. Getting the early Stalker's Blade really helps with our jungle clear and makes our ganks more effective as we can steal movement speed from enemy champions. The Vision Ward and Sweeping Lens will then help get rid of wards, so our ganks are much more effective. For our early core, we want to get either a Stalker's Blade enchanted with Cinder Hulk or Warrior, some Swiftness boots, and we want to upgrade our Sweeping Lens into an Oracle Alteration when we are level 9. In almost all cases, I will get the Stalker Blade enchanted with Cinder Hulk, so I do get tanky early on, but if your team does need a lot of damage because you have stuff like a Maokai top and a really tanky mid and a tanky support, then you would want to get the Warrior. For our final build, I would get a Stalker's Blade enchanted with Cinder Hulk, so we do get tanky, some Boots of Swiftness to make our ganks as effective as possible. I'd then move into a Dead Man's Plate for some nice health and armor, so we are rather tanky, and move into a Titanic Hydra there afterwards. Titanic Hydra is a really nice item on her, as it does give some nice attack damage, AoE, and a bunch of health as well. For our last 2 items, we then get a Spirit Visage and a Randuin's Omen. I really like Spirit Visage since it does give some nice cooldown reduction, health, and a bunch of magic resist as well. Randuin's Omen is a really solid item on her as well, as it does have a lot of armor and health. Since you are going to be in the middle of team fights, the active slow is also really nice to get on the enemy champions so you can have a stronger team fight. Sterak's Gauge is a really great alternative as well, as it does help you not get bursted down. Since you are a bruiser, it also adds a nice little amount of attack damage, so you are dealing just a bit more damage than you normally would. If their team is going for really high armor, you can get a Black Cleaver so you can help your team get rid of some of that armor so you guys do a lot more damage. And finally, if you are against a high AP team, you could replace either the Dead Man's Plate or the Randuin's with a Maw. This is a great item on her as it gives you just a bit more attack damage and, of course, magic resist. So that pretty much covers it for our Rek'Sai guide. I hope you guys liked this guide and found it very helpful. You can find more of our guides on our website, which is www.egamingtv.com. We're also going to have monthly skin giveaways on our Twitter, so make sure you guys do follow us on Twitter at egaming_TV. Please make sure you guys do that so I'm not giving skins to the same people over and over again. Getting free skins is awesome. Thank you guys for watching this guide, and I hope to see you guys around our website and YouTube channel. Oh, and Twitter.